And so that day, the boy was just telling me he's so hungry. He's so hungry. And I didn't know what to do. I knelt down. Nyengeterai, I knelt down on the floor and I began to pray. And I said, God, this is my little brother. He's hungry. And I don't know what to give him. I don't even know what to do. And, when I knelt down, there was no money on the floor. But when I opened my eyes, there was money on the floor. There was enough money for me to buy food for my brother for that holiday until he went back.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Moments with Nyengeterai. Thank you so much for the messages that you have been sending us, and I'm really enjoying those and the topics that you want us to talk about. And for those of you who are still just, being friends with us but not yet gone to subscribe and join the community, please go join. Hit subscribe and share with your friends, with your family members, and just help this community to grow. And today, I have another exciting guest, another powerful young lady who has done so much for women, for the business space, and I really admire her a lot. But I'll let her introduce herself and talk about herself. Precious, welcome.
Thank you so much, Sis Nyengeterai. It's really an honor, an absolute honor for me to be here. And I must say I'm humbled by the remarks you've made. So I'm a social entrepreneur. I run an organization called Vessels of Virtue that does a lot of things. We have about 5 pillars under it, and the first one being the economic and educational empowerment for women and girls. The second one is the technological and innovation arm, where we are partnering different institutions to make sure that a lot of women are aware of the digital drive that's being put across. The third pillar is the humanitarian arm. Under that, as and when need arise, we galvanize for support for different community needs, and that includes, but not limited to, it can be book drives, it can be hygiene packs, it can be food drives, it can be clothes drives and things like that. And then the fourth pillar has been the smart agriculture and climate change, where we are trying to train women in agricultural space so that they can have sustainable means of food and even just the income bit of it. The last but not least is a new baby, which I've just introduced now, which is the healthcare part, where we are trying to also penetrate into the space of healthcare through medical aid, medical equipment, and in the long term, hopefully be able to build hospitals like in the next 2 or 3 or 5 years to come. So my work is really centered around community development. I love to see change. I love to see impact. Not easy, sometimes tiring, but when impact is inevitable, when something pushes you around passion, you can't help but just continue doing what you have to do. So thank you so much.
Oh, wow. Just listening to you, and I'm just looking, you're young and you've thought about all these things and you're working on all these projects and all these pillars. I just want us to go back. I want to find out whether, is this something that was nurtured from a young age? Take me back to when you were a young girl. What kind of girl was Precious? How did you grow up? Because I'm trying to understand where this nurturing started and came from.
I personally think that we are a combination of different people that we meet across the way. And also, of course, our upbringing in the households that we are raised plays a very big role. So I will start by just mentioning my grandmother, because I grew up in a child-headed home. I've got siblings, 3 that are older than me that I love dearly. Of course, sometimes we do argue. I don't know if people can. And then I have 2 younger ones. So our parents died when we were very, very young. Then our grandmother she came in to kind of like then take that parental role. And I would like to believe that she's my hero. Though she was in that setup of a rural home, but she would always come to the city to see us, spend time with us, drilling the right characters, would make sure that we are okay and all of that. And for me, she was that kind of a woman that was so compassionate and so loving. Her love just ran beyond the people that were close to her. She would go out of her way. My grandmother is the kind of a woman that would go out of the way just to see other people living better lives. For instance, you can cook a meal and she sees people walking randomly, she would say, come. So I really would like to believe that she, in a way, passively, she taught me that people matter. And it's always important in what we do to make sure that one way or the other, we are making a positive impact towards other people. You know, sometimes not easy, but I think you can never love enough. You can never have compassion enough. So that's what drives me. And along the journey, I have met other people that have sacrificed to see me being the woman that I am becoming. And I'm saying becoming because I feel like I'm still work in progress. I'm evolving, and as I'm getting older, a lot of things are unpacking themselves, or circumstances and help them unpack them for me. But it has been a journey, one where I think even when you can imagine that if you are growing up in a child-headed home, life is not easy. We didn't have a rosy childhood, but we had each other. You know, I've always had my siblings and we've always had our grandmother. So we would literally struggle for a lot of things, you know, school fees, shoes, clothes, food, and sometimes just going home to a space where there's no parent, you know, and I think naturally then you become independent at a younger age. So I think because sometimes then there would be some people that you reach out to that you want help from, and they don't understand where you are. Not that they are bad people, but they don't necessarily perceive the situation where you are. And so that would always leave this thing in me that, you know, I think one day if I do it right, if I come right, I want to also try and help people. When people come and genuinely say they are stuck, they are not okay, I want to see how I can help them. So in the work that I do, for me, I think it's where I'm coming from. That's what pushes me. I'm trying to, you know, when they say that when your mess becomes your message or your test becomes your testimony, it's more like that for me. It's my background. That's what pushes me to do what I do. I know what it is to grow up as an orphan. So, and I can relate to an orphan. I know what it is to be a young woman in business and sometimes things not working well. So for me, it's a combination of all those things that's making me become the person that I think God wants me to be.
The becoming, yeah. I really, when you're talking about becoming and just evolving, it really made me, and then telling me that you grew up in a child-headed home, you know, and what you've gone through. Life lessons, you know, I mean, you know, for some people, like, I'll take, for example, me, I grew up with both my parents. So, you know, there's certain things that I'll have empathy for people, but I might not understand the extent of what it's like to be growing up in a child-headed home. What it takes, you know, I mean, what courage it takes even for the older sibling to become like a parent to you guys. Or, I mean, what would be going on in the home? You know, I mean, just take me through some of the things that you guys, like, maybe if you're free to talk about it, you went through that could help someone else, or any life lessons that you taught, that you learned that can also help other people who are like in child-headed homes, or who are maybe going through the same things like you were going through, and how you guys went through it.
You know, again, I'll just touch on my grandmother. She was love personified. So, you know, if you do anything out of that scope of love and compassion, she wouldn't be happy with you. So she would just tell you, this is wrong. So then she would occasionally come in the home front to see, are they okay? And then she would even tell the people in our street, like, watch over my grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
You know, and then when she's coming from the rural areas, she would then bring us all these foodstuffs from the rural areas and say, I'm bringing them to. So she drilled in love within us. But of course, it comes with its own challenges, because sometimes you don't have food. And again, the person who's going to lead you is also a child themselves who still needed a parent. I remember my brother took that role to just make sure that I'm gonna work and see
How
that
old
my
was he
sisters.
when your parents passed away?
When our father died, he was 17. He was actually writing his O levels.
Your mom had already passed before.
My dad passed first on the 1st of August, 96. My mom passed next on the 31st of May, the following year, which was 97. And then we also had a stepmom, and then she passed on the following year, which was 98. So within a space of 3 years, we lost that whole parental thing in our family. And yeah, I always feel like, even those days, my dad knew that we needed insurance for school, and that also partly helped us. Though we even had relatives that were selfish, they took the money and all of that. So you then, at that age, you just learn that no one is coming. I think there's one.
How old were you?
When they died, I was, because I'm born 84, so I was 10. I should have been 10 or so. Yeah, so I was quite young when they died,
And the impact on you.
it affected me because I was that typical, when the fathers love their daughter kind of thing.
Daddy girl relationship.
Yeah, so it affected me. I think it affected me even longer than it should have. I loved my dad so much, and I believed he loved me. But again, I also think that just knowing him at that stage and knowing that he loved me has helped me, even to this stage, that I had a man who loved me, genuinely so, and would just sacrifice for me. So the dynamics are not easy. But when then you love each other, the core of it is that, we've got to love each other. No one is coming. We only have got each other. That's what keeps us going. Even now, as we navigate, you just know that this is my sibling. Of course, sometimes we're going to disagree. I think sometimes we do a lot. Sometimes we are on the same boat, but love always, I think it brings us together. And we've also just learned to share, and then, it has helped us.
Wow. And the life lessons from there that you'd love to share with other people, who are maybe either in childhood at home. How can they maneuver through that space,
I think that I'm a Christian, I'm a believer, and it's one thing I don't shy away from.
Have you always been? When did you give your life to the Lord?
The funny part is when my dad died, the day he died, I think even when he got sick, I knew that my dad wasn't going to make it. Somehow, my spirit just knew. And so I remember one of the days, the day when he died, the following day, I was crying a lot. I was under a tree and I wept so much. I was like, I can't believe that the first man I've ever loved is God, and I wept for hours. And I think that day I wept because I needed answers. I needed closure. I needed help. I needed to understand in my little mind. I still needed to understand how can a person that I love just leave me like that. And so under a tree on that day, I heard an audible voice that said to me, I will be your father. I will protect you. I will be there. Nyenge, that has always been my thing. When people ask how did you navigate, I go back to that voice that you said under the tree, that you will always be there. So oftentimes when people say, Christianity is overrated, and for me, it's like, no. I have had a personal encounter with God. I know the God that I'm talking about. I know when I am broken and he steps up. When I am weak, then he becomes my strength. When things are not making sense, I can still go him unashamedly. So broken, embarrassed from the world, humiliated, and all of that, I can still approach because I have a relationship with him. So I think largely, if you are to ask me that, I'll tell you, is because of the personal relationship with God. And I wouldn't trade that for anything, because we have weathered the storms together. When we are being unheard, when we are misunderstood, when we are humiliated, when we are embarrassed, when we are alone, he remains. He remains just like under the tree. He reminds me that I'll be your father. So when things make sense, when they don't, I think is my confidant, is my favorite place, the Holy Spirit. So that's what has helped me. Yeah.
Oh, wow. You said a lot. Oh my gosh. I'm in awe. Because I think I resonate a lot, especially with the personal relationship with God, But like from such a young age, for me, it says a lot, that, he's been there for you, he's been guiding you, he's been your father from then on. So when you then speak, do you ever get into a situation where you try and explain that to people and they don't understand? And how do you tackle that?
So with the work that I've done over the years, sometimes you start from a good place, like, this is my intention, but you're not living in an island. There are also other factors that are beyond you, and sometimes then you err, you make mistakes, and generally people are not as forgiving. And then you get to a place where you're like, that was not the motive. My motive was this. So you have to go back to where it started. Like, I meant to do this, but along the way it got hijacked. Then maybe I got overwhelmed, or maybe I got overexcited and I lost the plot. So when I try to explain to people, I'll give you an incident why I can't trade that relationship with God. One day I had gone to take my little brother, because he's my half brother, and I was young. I was Form 2, but I always thought that he needed to be with us so that he can grow up with everyone. He's a part of us, and he never gets to feel alone or something like that. And so he got hit by a bus when we were trying to cross the road. So these are two young people. The older sister, very ambitious, with the young man, and then the young boy gets hit. And then the bus stopped. I panicked and I didn't know what I was going to do. Then people called an ambulance. So we knew, both of us, that we were going to get into trouble, because people were going to say, why were you going? You are a child yourself. Why are you going to go and get another child? And so we were rushed to another hospital. We went there. The doctor checked and said, no, there's nothing actually wrong with the young man, which was one testimony for us. Like, nothing is wrong with God, And then now the paying time came. Like, you now have to pay for the bill. And we didn't have the money. And then they said, so who do we address this to? And then I was like, if it goes to my brother, it might be a bit difficult. But let it go to our my guru, who was like a stepmom, And so it went there. And my prayer was like, may it never reach there, because if it reaches there, they are going to. So me and my brother, we made a pact that we're not going to talk about this, because if we talk about it, I'm not going to be able to come and get you again. And do you still come? Do you still want to come? And he says, yes, I want to come. We've always been close with that little one. And so we proceeded. Then we went home. I got home. Is there food to give this young man? There's no food. And then he's whining. Oh, Sissy, I'm hungry. I'm like, oh, goodness, what did I do? And so that day, the boy was just telling me he's so hungry. He's so hungry. And I didn't know what to do. I knelt down, Sis Nyengeterai. I knelt down on the floor and I began to pray. And I said, God, this is my little brother. He's hungry. And I don't know what to give him. I don't even know what to do. And, when I knelt down, there was no money on the floor. But when I opened my eyes, there was money on the floor. There was enough money for me to buy food for my brother for that holiday until he went back.
Wow.
And those are just some of the few testimonies that I have encountered God, So for me, if anyone is growing up in a child-headed home, I think The Bible is very clear when it says that I'll be a father to the fatherless, I'll be a mother to the motherless. So the first running point should just be God. Because I have also seen that people, they'll leave you. People will come for what they want. They will take what they want. And the rest, they don't care, But God remains. So for me, an encouragement, I feel that people must just go back to where it starts. Go back to God. Have a conversation with this God. Talk to this God. He directs us. He is the creator of all things. He sustains all things. He knows all things. He is God all by himself. Nothing is new. So whatever complicated, however difficult the situation can be, just take it back. Take it back. And the beauty of God is he doesn't care whether you don't have makeup or people have laughed at you. He clearly just says, come as you are. And then he gives you strength. He says, when you are weak, I become your strength. And he says, come and offload at the feet of the cross. So for me, that's my encouragement. If you are growing up in a childhood at home, whenever you feel lonely, try and be friendly with the Holy Spirit. Let him be your companion. Yeah.
And how has this influenced your relationship with God? How has it influenced your relationship with friends or with other relatives or your siblings? How has that relationship with God been influenced every other relationship or networks that you make?
It's very funny because I think it's always a personal journey with God, and people always have opinions. There are times when I've had my faith and people have thought, this one, I think she's cuckoo. Some would tell me, we'll see where you're going to take you. And I'm like, yeah, me too. I'm also waiting for you to show up, So I think I'm that fool that takes God at his word, and I'll wait on it because you said. And people have always, they'll come with solutions to try and frustrate processes that God is working us in through, and yeah, of course, sometimes you offended people because of your faith and your conviction, but your tribe, they are not offended. They know that Precious is not crazy. She clearly has had an encounter with this God, and they've also had their own encounters. So I'm not speaking a foreign language. I'm speaking an experience. I'm speaking a lifestyle which should be normalized by Christians. I'm talking of personal relationship with God. And unfortunately, sometimes you can't explain it to people until they experience it for themselves. So yes, sometimes my faith gets me into trouble. A lot of times, people tell me, you are not okay. You are not okay. But I know where I'm coming from with this crazy faith. Otherwise, I would have been a rural girl somewhere in the Bundus with nothing but faith. And this relationship has always taken me to places I've never thought, I've never dreamt, So sometimes people, they tell me, no, I think you should go and see this prophet. You should go and do this. I'm like, no, I'm not going to go anyway. I'm going to spend time in worship and talk to this God. He's going to hear me because that's what makes sense to me. So I think in some situations that I've always felt like insurmountable, very hard, very difficult, where you can't even think, there are times when you can't even pray. You're like, God, I'm just going to surrender this to you. And the beauty of it in some cases is that, even when we are doing what we are doing, he drops the ideas. He generates the ideas. He generates what we should do in a season. That's my conviction. So then that helps me to align with God's will because I'm not doing my own things. And when I do his things, there's grace for it. So I go to him for strategy. I go to him for open heavens, open doors. I go to him to shut certain doors away from me, So even in the work that I do, the conferences that we run, the projects that we run, I'll be lying if I say there's no prayer in it. you feel the presence of God in the things that we do. You feel it that God is in it, God is in it, God is in it. And for me, it makes sense because everything starts and ends with God.
What's surrender to you? Total surrender. When you're saying I surrender, what is surrender to you?
I think it's I did some awards in just before COVID. Was that 2020 or
2020 or 2019?
Yeah. And at that time, I felt like we had done well, But immediately when we finished, the Holy Spirit said, I was going to go into a season of wilderness. And I didn't like that. It was like, wilderness, God, what is this, And so I resisted it. I hid it, not even that someone else had to tell me, but it was a personal talk like, okay, Mama, we have done this, but we're going to go into a season of wilderness. And no one wants wilderness.
Yeah, that one, yeah. I've been through that season and I know, yeah.
No one,
No one wants.
And so that season for me was hard. Where you feel like you are being squeezed, you are tested, and I felt like my carpet was rolled away from me. And initially I resisted it, like, I can still hold the fort. I can defend this thing, I can protect myself. I can, until everything was just shambles, And I think one day I just woke up and I'm like, what's there to hold? There's nothing. I felt like some of the things that I had done, they'd just come to naught, And I think what I love about God is there are verses we understand in stages, You remember that time, even though David had sinned and he still went and wept for his son because he wanted the son to live.
Yeah.
And God did his own way.
And son died, yeah.
And immediately when he saw the servants, I was like, I now know. I know that the son is dead, otherwise we wouldn't be whispering. And then people were expecting him to even be worse. And then at that moment he said, the Bible says he washed himself, dressed, and he went on his way. So I think I understood what it was. Sometimes when we are holding on to this thing, we are holding on to, and God is saying, let it go. Let this thing go. And so I think for me, it was this season that God said, can't you just surrender and just yield and stop pretending, stop holding on? And I feel like, Sis Nyengeterai, at that moment, when we completely surrender, there's a beautiful exchange. And we are being real with God. We are being authentic, and God doesn't ignore us when we are genuine repentance, genuine surrender. I feel like it's always that beautiful. That's what it is for me. Complete surrender, where I have to surrender my will to His will. I have to surrender my thoughts. I have to bring them to subjection to His word. Precious has to die. Job says that I may decrease so that God can increase. And Jeremiah says that God always has plans for us, plans to prosper us and not to harm us. And I realized that I never really understood that word, because if I understand it, then I'm going to surrender, and he says his plans are perfect and they are pleasing. So surrender means that I'm trusting God completely to help me at whatever situation I am in. He's going to carry me. He's going to sustain me. He's going to do what he needs to do. So for me, that's surrender. But it's I don't think it's easy.
It's not. I know.
Sometimes it's coerced out of us.
I know, right?
Sometimes situations push us to surrender. Like, hey.
And that's why he's such a good God. Don't you think that he will patiently wait for us, patiently wait for us until, like the part when you said you were trying to, I'm like that, because being a firstborn, I'm a fixer. I fix things. I'm always the one,
Junior parent.
making sure things are done. Or even just making sure things are in control. But when God is telling me to surrender, and I'll be like trying. So when you're saying, I was like, I can relate. I can relate to that. Tell me the moment that God has come through when you least expected, and taken you far to a place where you're like, this place, Mari, it can only be you.
When I went to South Africa, I went there when I was younger. And I didn't know what awaited me there. I left because of a heartbreak. And so in my little mind then, I didn't know how I was.
Like love relationship. You literally left a whole country because of a man.
Imagine, in my little mind, I was like, oh, okay, that's the end of the world. That's what I thought then. Now, no, I'm not going to leave any country for nobody. But then I went into this country and everything was not okay. Where you feel like I probably made a bad decision, but it's now too embarrassing for me to
go back home.
And then start away. Because even the job that I had quit and very overambitious, And that was just the starting part of it, because then I got very sick. I had this, it was more spiritual than anything. I would have these visitations, I would have these crazy things happening every single night. When people are sleeping, me, I'm dealing with things I had never fathomed in my whole life that I could actually experience. And so that was the moment for me. I actually, for 2 years, every night I battled. And I began to pray. I would pray. I can't even disclose the experiences because they were very horrific, and I prayed every night. I knew Darlene Check's music left, right, and center. I knew the Psalms left, right, and center. That's what would help me. That's what would bring me back, And if there's any moment I can say God really came through for me, it was that. Because for 2 years, I didn't know where I was coming, where I was going. What do I fight? And that eventually stopped completely. And I felt like
2 years.
For 2 years.
And in the morning when you wake up, you'd be fine. And
yes. And to say good morning, but for me, the night was not a night. It was a war zone.
And it was only when you were in SA?
Yes.
And when you traveled, it would...
No.
Do you think it was the space you were in or what?
I think so. No, it's sometimes we then understand what these apostles of us and bishops will be saying, that they could be territorial spirits or things like that. I battled. So I think it's one of the things that I feel God came through for me. Plenty. I can share lots of testimonies, but that's one that it was a defining moment for me because it even grew my faith.
Wow.
Because I then became completely surrendered to this God, because that's where only I could find peace.
And then now you've gone to SA, you've gone through all this. How then did you start your business and get into this environment to work with women? And what drove you?
Number one, because I am a woman, so there are challenges that I have faced to date, right? And I've just felt like it's important for women to be financially independent. Sometimes it's not perceived well with others, but I think for so many reasons, which we can discuss, but I think women must be independent. So, and then when I went there, like I said, life wasn't rosy. Things were so hard. I felt like I was facing this huge mountain and I didn't know what to do. I would get to a place, I would come to your home, you would find fault on me. You start telling me all these things and there was just this huge resistance. And
of you,
of me just showing up. It was like this huge thing, there would just be animosity, this negativity, this toxicity. And I just couldn't understand, And so I remember one day I was left, it was on the New Year's Eve. Someone just dropped me in the heart of Joburg CBD. I don't know if you even knew Joburg CBD, not those Sandton areas, CBD, with my suitcase. And someone said to me, do you realize where you've just been dropped? It's the most dangerous place in Joburg. And I'm like, what? That day I wept. Because
they just left you with your bag?
With my bag. They had created a story. I couldn't sleep in their house and then, And so again, I went back before God and I said, God, I'm sure you didn't bring me here to perish. You, God, with your mercy, you need to help me. And I wept. I dragged my bag weeping. I wept. In
the center of Joburg City.
In the center of Joburg City. Not sure where I was going. And I said, God, I cannot perish. I think there's still more I need to do. And so eventually I found a communal place where people were sleeping. So you pay for a space just to sleep. And that's how I started. I stayed there for 3 months.
Wow.
I stayed there for 3 months and I would see young women going in and out, doing all sorts of things. And I would sit there and read my Bible, And so during that night, God then told me that you see how easy it is for a woman to get into prostitution. Because at this moment, you have no help. At this moment, you don't have any support. And it's easy for you to throw your destiny away. And that's when the drive for women empowerment was birthed. It was from a place of relating to being broken with nothing and saying something can be made out of nothing. That's where it started.
Wow. So the name now.
Elohei Cleaners. So there's always been this apostle. I'm not sure if it's okay to share his name, but I had not discussed it, so I'll keep his privacy. He would always appear. He has always appeared. He would pop in now and again. And I then met him, and I said to him, I think I want to do a cleaning company. And then he said, how are you going to try? So we sat down, I'm going to do this. And he listened. Then now the issue was the name. What name are we going to give this thing? I went before God and I said, what name? And it was Elohei Cleaners. I was going through the names of God, and that one resonated with me. Elohei, the Lord thy God. And that's how I started. The first company I ever formally registered, it was that Elohei Cleaners. And I'm not bragging, it is not my own doing, but I think to date we've placed over 5,000 women on jobs. Wow. And our beneficiaries have been women that are predominantly from Zim, Malawi, Lesotho, a bit of some Zambians, and of course, South African women. That's where that thing was birthed. It was from that experience that I could relate that a woman can easily throw away destiny because of difficult situations. And that moment also taught me that don't just go around judging people when you don't know them, when you don't know what they've gone through or what they are going through. And again, it touches to that thing that I was mentioning earlier, that my grandmother always taught us to love. Sis Nyengeterai, if we can learn to be a little bit compassionate towards one another, it will really help. And that helped me to just then, because then you would sit and then you hear these women bringing their stories. You sit and you hear, you realize that women are actually going through a lot. And then that's when we then started to just actively run the Vessels of Virtue thing with our pillars that we are working with.
Wow. Sure, Precious. I could spend the whole day listening to you, and I think our viewers would want to. So I just want you to, from what you've gone through in your life, your challenges with business. Just give me 5 life lessons that you'd want to share with someone that either drive you or have driven you to be who you are today.
I think that number one, spend time with God. The one who created you is not forgotten about you. And I think if the vision is not clearer of what you're supposed to do, or you're in a season where you don't even know whether you're coming or you're going, I would still encourage you to just have a relationship with God. As you spend more time with Him, He reveals a lot of things to you. He mends when mending is needed, So that will be my first nugget, that have a relationship with God. And then the second one is, we are all born with a purpose. We are not just coming on this earth just to, they come and they went. God wants us to accomplish something. He wants us to achieve something, and we must find it, because it is in that purpose where we find fulfillment. It is in that purpose where God meets with us. And once you are busy doing that, you grow, you become the person that you ought to be. And even when you go home and sleep, you have this fulfillment and contentment that you have. I also think that people must actively work on their personal development. It's important to evolve, to become, to grow for yourself, so that you are not redundant, you are not irrelevant, but you are needed for such a time as this. I think it's important. And then fourthly, I think we must actively work on the relationships that we have. Be intentional in just having good relationships with people. And where a sorry is needed, go and say sorry. I think it's important because the opportunities that we want, they are with people. God is not coming down from heaven. He's using people. So it's horizontal, it's vertical. And last but not least, I think that people mustn't give up. If you're convicted of something, keep at it. Sometimes you give up on the verge of your breakthrough. So don't give up. Keep at it. Keep trying. Have your safe space of people that you love, that you can say, this is hard. What can I do? And they'll help you. They'll pray with you. They'll direct you. They'll knock at the right doors for you. I think it's important not to quit. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Those are powerful life lessons. And just to close us off, I'm just going to ask a few fun questions of you, just to close off the show. So tell me, what are your favorite colors and why?
I love beige. That's one of my favorite colors. I love pink, like this deep pink. I love also purple. There's this, not the ordinary purple, there's this purple in between. I love purple because I believe it's a royal color. And I believe I'm of royalty.
Yes, you are, ma'am. What's your favorite animal and why?
I love the lion.
Lion, yay! Oh, why do you like the lion?
I love the lion because it's the Lion of Judah. I love it that it represents strength. It's when it roars, you can't ignore. So I personally, I believe I'm from the tribe of the Lion of Judah, and I carry myself with that understanding and that conviction that when I roar, often very quiet and timid, underestimated, but I believe I'm a lioness.
Yes, ma'am. I love that. What's the book that you've read that has made a huge impact on you?
Without sounding too spiritual, I think the Bible.
Fantastic. Yes, I agree with. I would resonate with that. And the one movie that you've watched that you watch all over again?
I love The Holiday.
Ah,
I love The Holiday. It's not a Christian movie, but I love it. It's one movie that I can watch over and over again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I love it.
If today was your last day on earth and you're about to transcend to the next, what is the one thing that you'd say, God, I'm ready to go? What is the one thing that you'd say, you know what, because I've done this, God, you can take me?
Sis Nyengeterai, I don't think I'll ever do enough because sometimes Precious is so selfish and there are things that God wants me to do and there are reason out of doing them. So I don't know if I'll ever have enough evidence to quantify myself of saying, because I've done this, then, I don't know, because half the time I feel like I've not done the things that I'm supposed to do, limited to different things, but I don't know if I even have the right to say that because He is God. But my prayer is that He empowers me further, He equips me to do what I'm supposed to do, and He takes me whenever He feels like He wants me to go.
Wow. We've packed our bags, we've got our passports, and we're going on holiday. Where are we going?
There's this trending thing about Maldives and I would go to Maldives.
Nice. Wow, okay.
That's
the blue waters and everything. When you just see Maldives, we just see this blue water and those houses, the hotels that are on top of it is beautiful.
That's beautiful. My next holiday.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. Precious, it's been absolutely precious having you, no pun intended, having you here, spending time with me, spending time with our community on Moments. And I wish you nothing but the best in life. May God continue to be at the center of everything that you do. And I just want you to give one word to our viewers as we're closing for the week. What message would you like to give them?
To the viewers, thank you for tuning in and for supporting the wonderful work that Sis Nyengeterai is doing. My shout out message is that keep at it, don't give up. You might be on the verge of breakthrough, and if you throw in the towels, you might just miss the opportunity of a lifetime. So keep at it, keep going. Help is on the way.
Oh, fantastic. So as you're going into the week, please don't forget, don't give up. Don't even give in. Continue working hard towards that goal. Continue working hard towards whatever God has put in your mind and your head. Just continue working at it and don't give up. I'll see you guys next week and have an amazing, amazing week. Bye.